Battle Commander Korvax's claws scraped against the command console as he transmitted across 3 star systems. Emergency Protocol Omega-7. The human's been surrounded by Krexar cubs for 6 minutes. She's not defending herself, and the cubs are playing with her. The Galactic Council's emergency channel erupted into chaos within seconds. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Impossible! Council Representative Zara's voice cut through the comm static. Krexar cubs don't play. They hunt, they kill, they feed. Get her out of there. Korvax's primary eyes fixed on the observation screen, while his secondary eyes monitored the 20 veteran warriors assembled in the corridor outside containment. Each warrior had faced death across a dozen campaigns. Each warrior now stood frozen, watching something that violated every tactical principle they'd ever learned. Human maintenance engineer Emma Johnson sat cross-legged in the center of Containment Bay 7, surrounded by 6 Krexar cubs. The cubs' crystalline teeth, capable of piercing battle armor rated for capital shipboarding actions, were currently tearing through the reinforced plating of her protective suit. Chunks of ablative ceramic scattered across the deck with each bite. She wasn't fighting back. She wasn't fleeing. She wasn't even calling for help. Commander, Zara's tone carried the weight of 17 worlds. Those cubs killed a full security team last cycle. 4 trained soldiers. What is the human doing? Korvax had fought Krexar adults during the border conflicts. He'd watched those crystalline predators tear through hardened positions like they were made of morning mist. He'd seen what their feeding frenzy looked like. The cubs, orphaned when their parents died in the last skirmish, were supposed to be relocated to a preserve world today. Starving cubs, specifically. Cubs that hadn't fed in 3 planetary rotations because they refused the synthetic protein supplements. Cubs that Emma had somehow encountered when she'd entered containment to check the environmental systems. Sir, Tactical Officer Jitaro's voice cracked slightly. Her suit's down to 40% integrity. Medical protocols recommend immediate extraction before they feed. Korvax finished. His mandibles clicked in the Krexar equivalent of a grimace. I know. On screen, the largest cub, easily the size of a Terran wolf, bit down on Emma's shoulder guard. The reinforced plating cracked. Atmosphere sensors detected the breach immediately. Emma Johnson laughed. The sound echoed through the observation deck, like a physical blow. Every warrior, every tactical expert, every xenobiologist who'd been summoned to explain this impossibility. They all stared at the screen in stunned silence. Oh, you're a strong one, aren't you? Emma's voice came through clear on the audio feed. She was making soft cooing sounds, the kind Korvax had heard Terran mothers make to their offspring. Yes, you are. Such a big, strong boy. Her cub bit harder, drew closer. Its siblings circled, crystalline fur bristling with predatory intent. Emma reached toward them. Stop her! Zara's command boomed through every speaker on the station. Commander, your warrior, the human, she's going to trigger a feeding frenzy. They'll tear her apart. Korvax's tactical computer painted the scenario in brutal clarity. 6 angles of attack, 0 defensive positions available, human response time insufficient for evasion, probability of survival dropping with each passing second. The smallest cub, still the size of a juvenile Terran predator, had begun circling behind Emma's position. Classic pack-hunting behavior. They were coordinating. Extraction team ready, sir, Jitaro reported. We can breach in 15 seconds with flash suppressors and kinetic nets. Stun the cubs. Pull her out before... She's removing her helmet, someone whispered. The observation deck went silent. Emma Johnson's hands moved to her helmet seals. The magnetic locks disengaged with an audible click that seemed to echo across 3 star systems. No, Zara breathed. No, she can't. That's suicide. That's... The helmet came off. Emma's face, completely unprotected, completely vulnerable, broke into a warm smile as she looked at the 6 apex predators surrounding her. The cubs froze, confusion rippling through their pack coordination. Prey didn't do this. Prey ran, or fought, or died screaming. Prey didn't smile. "Hey there, sweethearts," Emma said softly, her voice carrying that same maternal tone. "Look at you all. Look at your little faces. You're just scared babies, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes, you are." The largest cub's teeth were inches from her throat. Its bite force could decapitate her in a single motion. It didn't bite. It whimpered. "By the Founders," Korvax heard himself say. "What is she?" On the emergency channel, Zara's voice had gone very quiet. "Commander, your human just broke every law of predator-prey dynamics in the known galaxy. Either she's about to die in the next 30 seconds, or we need to rewrite our entire understanding of how survival instincts work." Emma reached out, slowly, carefully, and placed her bare hand on the largest cub's crystalline snout. Every tactical expert watching waited for the blood. Instead, the cub closed its eyes and leaned into her touch. "That's it," Emma whispered. "You're okay now. You're safe. I've got you." Korvax's claws released the command console. His combat computer had just classified the situation as error, parameters undefined. Across 3 star systems, the emergency channels buzzed with one question. What are humans? "Extraction team, weapons hot." Jitaro's command cut through the stunned silence on the observation deck. 20 warriors snapped into formation outside the containment bay, plasma rifles charging with lethal efficiency. "Stand down." Korvax's roar stopped them mid-breach. His claws slammed against the emergency. Override. "You breach now. She'll panic. Panicked prey triggers feeding instinct. They'll rip her apart before you cross the threshold." Zara's hologram materialized beside the command console, her scales shifting through colors that indicated extreme agitation. "Then we stun the cubs remotely. Neurotoxin gas, electromagnetic pulse, sonic disruptors. We have options, Commander." "Oh, they're just scared babies." Emma's voice drifted through the comm system like she was commenting on pleasant weather. "Look at their little faces. Have you seen how cute they are when they tilt their heads like that?" On screen, the cubs had begun climbing onto Emma. Not attacking, climbing. The largest one had its forepaws on her shoulders, crystalline claws puncturing through the remaining armor layers. 2 smaller cubs scrambled up her back. Another pressed against her side, teeth finding purchase in her hip plating. The medical team's trauma indicators screamed warnings across every display. "Suit integrity at 28%, a medic reported, voice tight. "Breach in 3, no, 4 locations now. Sir, when they reach skin." "I know what happens when they reach skin," Korvax growled. But Emma was laughing. Actually laughing as a cub the size of a combat drone pierced through her shoulder guard and drew what had to be blood. The biomonitors confirmed it. Human blood type O negative, now leaking through compromised armor seals. "Yeah, I know you're hungry," Emma said, her tone shifting to something Korvax's translator labeled as soothing maternal vocalization. "I know, sweethearts. It's okay. You're doing great." She's praising them? Jotaro stared at his tactical display, like it had personally betrayed him. They're drawing blood, and she's... The smallest cub, its teeth buried in Emma's forearm guard, suddenly released its grip. It backed away, whimpering. A sound Korvax had never heard from a Krexar in 3 decades of military service. The cub's crystalline fur dimmed, shifted to colors that indicated distress, confusion, guilt. Oh, sweetie, no. Emma reached toward the cub with her bleeding hand. I'm not mad. Come here. You didn't hurt me. Come on. The observation deck collectively held its breath. She was reaching for the cub that had just bitten her, with her bleeding hand. This violates every principle of predator-prey dynamics in the xenobiological database. Jotaro's voice had gone very quiet. He'd pulled up holographic displays showing Krexar hunting patterns, feeding behaviors, pack hierarchies. Cubs should be in feeding frenzy by now. Blood in the air, wounded prey, numerical advantage. They should be feeding. Then why aren't they? Zara demanded. On screen, the smallest cub crept forward, hesitant. Its siblings watched, their coordinated pack behavior dissolving into something that looked disturbingly like confusion. The cub reached Emma's outstretched hand, pressed its snout against her palm. Emma smiled, like she'd just won a cosmic lottery. There you go. See? You're okay. We're all okay. Just a little accident, right? Right. The emergency channel crackled with a new voice, deeper, carrying the authority of someone who commanded entire fleet groups. Commander Korvax, this is Admiral Vexthul. I'm watching your feed from Command Central. Get that human out of containment. Now. Admiral, That's not a request, Commander. Those cubs are orphaned Krexar predators. They've been classified as military-grade threats. Extract the human before we have an interstellar incident on our hands. Korvax's mandibles clicked rapidly. Moving now could trigger the attack response we're somehow avoiding. I don't understand how, but... Hey, I figured they might be hungry. Emma's voice cut through both commanders' argument. She was digging in her suit's utility pocket, the one that hadn't been shredded yet, with her non-bleeding hand. These okay for carnivores? I mean, they're just protein bars, but... She pulled out emergency rations. Standard-issue human emergency rations. The kind meant for stranded humans to survive on for weeks. She was offering them to apex predators who could tear her throat out. Is she... Zara's hologram flickered. Is she trying to feed them? The observation deck went absolutely silent. 20 veteran warriors, 4 xenobiologists, 6 tactical experts, 2 medical teams on standby. All of them watching Emma Johnson tear open a protein bar wrapper with her teeth, while 6 starving Krexar cubs surrounded her. The largest cub, the one whose teeth had drawn her blood, leaned forward. Its crystalline snout twitched, analyzing the scent. Emma broke off a piece of the bar and held it out. Here you go, big guy. I bet you're starving, huh? Yeah, let's fix that. The cub's jaws could crush titanium alloy. It took the protein bar piece gently from her fingers. Gently. What? Admiral Vexthul's voice had gone very flat. In the name of every founder. Am I watching? Korvax didn't have an answer. His combat experience, his tactical training, his 3 decades of military service. None of it had prepared him for a human maintenance engineer conducting an impromptu feeding session with creatures that had killed trained soldiers last cycle. The other cubs pressed closer, whimpering, hungry, desperate. Emma broke the protein bar into more pieces. Okay, everyone gets some. Don't worry. There's enough. Here, sweet pea. Yes, you. And you, troublemaker. Yeah, I see you trying to sneak extra. She was naming them. Jitaro's display showed his vital signs approaching panic levels. Sir, her blood is in the air. Predator instincts should be overwhelming. They should be. They're eating protein bars, Korvax heard himself say, out of her hand, while she bleeds. On the emergency channel, Admiral Vexthul's silence spoke volumes. Finally, Commander, what are humans? The station's chief xenobiologist materialized on the observation deck, her three eyes cycling through the data streams with increasing agitation. This is Dr. Lir-Ana from the Institute. I've studied Krexar behavioral patterns for 2 decades. She gestured at the screen where Emma was hand-feeding cubs that should be ripping her apart. Krexar cubs imprint on strength and dominance displays, alpha behavior, aggressive posturing. The human is showing vulnerability, exposed skin, bleeding wounds, non-threatening posture. They should interpret this as weakness. And weakness means food. Jitaro finished quietly. Exactly. On screen, the largest cub finished its protein bar piece and leaned forward again. Emma held out another piece, her bleeding hand steady. The cub's crystalline teeth, each one capable of shearing through combat plating, closed around the food with deliberate, careful precision. It took the food without touching her fingers. That's... Dr. Lir-Ana's translator struggled with her vocalization. That's not possible. They don't do gentle. Krexar physiology doesn't support fine motor control in feeding behavior until maturity. They bite, they tear, they consume. They don't. They can't. They just did, Korvax said. Emma's voice drifted through the comm system, warm and conversational. They're babies who watch their parents die. They're terrified, that's all. Zara's hologram snapped toward the audio pickup. They're predators, apex predators with a kill count. Emma laughed, actually laughed, like Zara had just told an amusing joke. Yeah, and? They're still kids. Look at this big guy. She gestured to the largest cub, who had positioned himself between Emma and his siblings. He's protecting the others. He's trying to be brave for them. Aren't you, buddy? Yes, you are. Such a brave boy. Yes, you are. The brave boy in question could disembowel an armored warrior in 3 seconds. Emma was making nonsense sounds at it. The cub's crystalline fur shifted to colors that Dr. Lir-Ana's database labeled as contentment, safety response, typically only observed in presence of parent. Pull up the human's file, Admiral Vexthul commanded. Full background. Korvax's claws flew across his console. Emma Johnson's personnel record materialized across multiple displays. Maintenance engineer, grade 4. Specialization in environmental systems. No combat training. No xenobiology education. No tactical certifications. Standard human-civilian background. Employment history. Various mechanical positions. Educational background. Technical trade school. Family status. 3 children back on Earth. Ages 7, 9, and 12. Founders preserve us, Jitaro whispered. She's treating them like her own offspring. Because that's what she sees. Dr. Lir-Ana stared at her datapad like it had personally betrayed every scientific principle she held sacred. She's not responding to apex predators. She's responding to orphans. On screen, the cubs had finished the protein bars. All 6 of them pressed closer to Emma, their aggressive pack coordination completely dissolved. The smallest one, the one that had bitten her and then retreated, climbed into her lap. Its claws, rated lethal to armored personnel, kneaded against her shredded suit like a Terran cat seeking comfort. Oh, you want cuddles? Emma's voice went impossibly softer. Come here then, sweet pea. Come on. She wrapped her arms around the creature that had killed 4 trained soldiers last cycle. She cuddled it. The observation deck had gone beyond silence into something approaching religious shock. "Someone," Admiral Vexthul's voice carried the weight of 17 fleet groups. "Explain this. Now." Dr. Lirana's 3 eyes cycled through confusion, then disbelief, then something approaching existential crisis. "I can't. There's no precedent, no data, no theoretical framework. She's violating behavioral dynamics that have held true across 400 documented predator species. The cubs should be. Zara cut her off. But they're not. What are they doing? The largest cub, the researcher's files designated him as Alpha, moved toward Emma's bleeding hand. Every warrior on deck tensed. Medical teams positioned themselves at the containment entrance. The cub's tongue, rough as industrial abrasive, strong enough to strip flesh from bone, extended toward the wound. "He's going to," someone started. The cub licked Emma's wounded hand, not eating it, cleaning it. Dr. Lirana dropped her datapad. "That's pack bonding behavior, grooming, caretaking. We've never observed this in cubs. Never. They don't develop these behaviors until they've established pack hierarchy through combat dominance, until they've identified family." Korvax finished, understanding dawning like a tactical nuke in his consciousness. "She's not prey. She's not rival. She's mother," Jotaro whispered. Emma's voice floated through the comm with the casual confidence of someone completely unaware. They'd just rewritten xenobiological science. "See, they just needed someone to not be scared of them, to show them they're safe. We should be scared of them." Zara's hologram flickered with agitation. "They're lethal. Well, yeah," Emma interrupted, still petting the cub in her lap while Alpha cleaned her wounds. "But they don't know that yet. They just know they're alone and scared and hungry. Right, troublemaker?" She scratched another cub behind what passed for its ears. "You didn't know what to do with all those big, scary feelings, did you?" "No, you didn't." The cub, designated in the security files as Specimen 3, extremely aggressive, approach with lethal force authorized, pressed into her touch and made a sound that Dr. Lirana's translator labeled as juvenile contentment vocalization. "Her suit integrity is at 8%, a medic reported, voice hollow. "She's essentially unprotected. They could kill her in seconds. But they won't," Korvax realized. His combat computer had stopped trying to calculate threat assessments. "They've already decided she's not food." "She's family," Jotaro added. Admiral Vexthul's channel remained open but silent. Across 3 star systems, emergency protocols hung suspended in disbelief. The galaxy's foremost predator behavior experts watched their entire theoretical frameworks collapse under the weight of one human maintenance engineer who'd brought snacks and compassion to a situation that required weapons and armor. Emma Johnson, who had no idea she'd just revolutionized xenobiology, continued making soft cooing sounds at 6 apex predators while they cuddled around her like oversized, crystalline puppies. "Commander," Admiral Vexthul finally spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "I believe we need to completely reassess our understanding of human behavior patterns." "Yes, sir." "And possibly everything else we thought we knew about predator-prey dynamics." "Yes, sir. Starting immediately." On screen, Emma yawned. "Okay, sweethearts. Mama's getting tired. You guys need proper food and proper beds. Let's get you sorted out, yeah?" She stood up. 6 apex predators stood with her and followed. Emma stood, brushing shredded armor fragments from her lap. The cubs rose with her, not in aggressive formation, not in hunting configuration, but in something that looked disturbingly like a family outing. She walked toward the containment exit. 6 apex predators trotted behind her in a line. "Commander!" Jitaro's voice cracked completely. "She's bringing them out of containment." The extraction team raised weapons instinctively. 20 plasma rifles tracked toward the door. "Hold fire!" Korvax roared, but his claws were already hovering over the emergency lockdown. "Human, what are you—" "They can't stay in there." Emma's voice carried the same patient tone she'd used with the cubs. She reached the containment door controls. "It's too cold for babies. The environmental systems are set for specimen storage, not living creatures." "Didn't anyone check the temperature?" "It's a containment facility." Zara's hologram flickered with barely controlled panic. "The temperature is irrelevant. They're supposed to be—" Emma pressed the door release. The containment bay door, rated to hold against capital ship weapons fire, designed to contain the most dangerous predators in known space, slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Emma Johnson walked through it. 6 Krexar cubs, creatures with a combined kill count of 4 trained soldiers, creatures that had been scheduled for relocation to a maximum security preserve world. Creatures that represented enough lethal force to classify as a military threat, trotted after her like ducklings following their mother. The extraction team scattered. Emma barely glanced at them. "Oh, don't mind us. Just getting these sweethearts somewhere warmer." "Where's the temporary habitat wing?" "Down this corridor." She was already walking, cubs in tow, like this was a completely normal Tuesday. She didn't see predators, Jitaro said quietly, his tactical displays still showing threat assessments that reality had rendered completely meaningless. She saw orphans, just orphans who needed help. Korvax pulled up the supply manifests from when they'd equipped Emma's protective suit that morning. Military-grade armor, sonic disruptors, emergency beacon, plasma cutter for self-defense. Everything a maintenance engineer might need when working near dangerous specimens. "We gave her armor," he said slowly. "Weapons systems, emergency extraction protocols." "She brought snacks," Jitaro finished, "and compassion." On the observation feeds, hastily rerouted to follow Emma's progress, the cubs responded to every movement she made. When she turned left, they turned left. When she slowed down, they slowed down. When she spoke, they listened. Not because she'd dominated them, because she'd cared for them. Human parenting instincts. Dr. Lirana's voice was hollow with scientific shock. They override survival instincts. She saw vulnerable offspring, and her biological imperatives overwrote the threat assessment. She chose vulnerability as a response to danger. And it worked, Admiral Vexthul added. Somehow, impossibly, it worked. Emma reached temporary habitat Bay 3, a storage area that had been hastily cleared when the cubs first arrived. She surveyed it with a critical eye, hands on her hips, looking exactly like Korvax's own mother had looked when evaluating whether his childhood quarters were properly maintained. "Okay, this won't do. Where are the environmental blankets? These floors are too hard for sleeping. And we need the temperature up by at least 10 degrees. Come on, don't you people know how to care for babies?" She was lecturing the entire Galactic Council on childcare for apex predators. Jitaro started laughing, the kind of slightly hysterical laughter that comes from watching your entire worldview collapse in real time. She's scolding us for not providing proper bedding. Emma found storage containers of thermal blankets meant for emergency evacuations and started spreading them across the habitat floor. There we go. Much warmer, much better. Come on, sweethearts. Look, nice soft beds for everyone. The cubs investigated the blankets, then settled down together in a pile of crystalline fur and lethal claws. The smallest one pressed against Emma's leg. Alpha, because Emma had been right, he was protecting his family, positioned himself at the edge of the group, watching the observation cameras with alert wariness. Emma knelt beside him and scratched behind his ears. "Good boy," she murmured. "Such a good boy, looking after your family. You're doing great. They're safe now. You can rest." Alpha's crystalline fur shifted to those contentment colors again. His guard posture relaxed. Not abandoned, never that, but eased, trusting. "We need new protocols." Admiral Vexthul's voice had gone very quiet. "For human-predator interactions. For human-alien interactions in general. For everything, apparently." "She domesticated them," Zara whispered. "In 20 minutes. 4 trained soldiers couldn't subdue them with weapons, and she domesticated them with protein bars and head scratches." "No," Korvax corrected, watching Emma check each cub for injuries with gentle, practiced hands. The hands of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before with her own children. She didn't domesticate them. She parented them. There's a difference. Emma found a small cut on one cub's paw, probably from the shattered armor pieces. She made soft, sympathetic sounds while examining it. "Oh, you hurt yourself, didn't you? We'll get the medical team to look at that." "Yes, we will. Can't have you limping around." She was requesting medical care for the creatures that medical teams had been prepared to treat her injuries from. Dr. Lirana was already pulling up new data files, her 3 eyes moving with frantic purpose. "We need to rewrite entire chapters of xenobiological behavior analysis. Krexar cubs don't just imprint on strength and dominance. They imprint on emotional recognition, on care behaviors, on vulnerability displayed as trust rather than weakness." The human's weakness was her strength, Jotaro said, understanding finally crystallizing. For humans. Specifically for humans. She approached with the assumption that showing vulnerability would create connection, not danger. And she was right, Korvax added. He pulled up command protocols, already highlighting sections that would need complete rewrites. "Every human integration protocol we have is based on their combat capabilities, their technological adaptation, their problem-solving skills. We never accounted for this. For compassion as a tactical advantage," Admiral Vexthul finished. "For emotional intelligence as a survival strategy. For the possibility that humans might respond to danger with kindness instead of force." On screen, Emma had settled down with the cubs, all of them arranged around her like she was the center of their new pack. She was humming something, a Terran melody that the translators couldn't parse, but that seemed to soothe the cubs into deeper relaxation. "She's singing them lullabies," Jotaro said, his voice carrying equal parts wonder and disbelief. "To apex predators. She's singing lullabies." The observation deck stood in silence, watching something that shouldn't be possible but undeniably was. One human maintenance engineer, surrounded by creatures that represented lethal military-grade threats, treating them like the scared children they actually were. "Start drafting new protocols," Korvax ordered quietly. "All of them. Human integration, predator management, threat assessment, everything. If one human can rewrite our understanding of Krexar behavior in under an hour, we need to reassess every assumption we've made about both species." "Every assumption about everything," Admiral Vexthul corrected. The question isn't what Emma Johnson did. The question is, how many other dangerous situations have we created simply by not understanding that humans see the galaxy differently than we do? In the habitat, Emma yawned and checked her comm unit. Oh, wow, I'm going to be late finishing those environmental systems. Commander Korvax, I'm going to need maybe another hour with the Cubs, just to make sure they're settled properly. She was asking for overtime, to babysit apex predators. Take all the time you need, Miss Johnson, Korvax replied, and meant it. 3 hours later, the Galactic Council transmitted new operational directives across 17 worlds. Human Compassion Protocols, Preliminary Framework. The document was already on its 4th revision, and xenobiologists were arguing about terminology in 7 different languages. Emma Johnson was officially appointed temporary guardian of the Krexar Cubs, pending permanent relocation arrangements. She shrugged when Korvax informed her. I raised 3 kids. How different can it be? Admiral Vexithul's hologram materialized beside her. Miss Johnson, these are apex predators with documented kill records? Emma looked up from checking Alpha's paw injury, now properly bandaged by a medical team who'd approached with extreme caution and left with extreme confusion. Yeah, and my middle kid is a teenager. Your point? The Admiral's translator struggled with his response for a full 3 seconds before giving up entirely. Emma stood, brushing cub fur from her shredded suit. Okay, Cubs are settled. I should really finish those environmental systems. The humidity sensors in Bay 4 have been glitchy all week. She laughed, that same easy laugh that had echoed through 3 star systems during a crisis. Took a slightly longer lunch break than planned. You nearly died. Zara's hologram flickered with residual stress. Nah, they're sweethearts. Besides, that littlest one. Emma glanced back at the habitat where the smallest cub was chirping plaintively at her departure. Total cuddlebug. Yes, baby, I see you. I'll be back later, I promise. The cub chirped again, pressing against the transparent barrier. Emma waved. Such a drama queen. Just like my youngest. She walked toward the exit, humming that same Terran melody, leaving behind a command deck full of officers trying to process what they'd witnessed. They see vulnerability as an opportunity for connection, Dr. Lirana said quietly, updating her research files. Where we calculate threat assessments, humans calculate emotional potential. They form bonds where we see only danger, Jitaro added. He was reviewing files on other human assignments across the station. 17 humans currently worked in various capacities. How many dangerous situations had been created simply because the Galactic Council expected humans to respond like every other species? How many conflicts could have been resolved with the approach Emma had demonstrated? Admiral Vexthul was already implementing changes. New training protocols for all species working with humans. Humans may approach dangerous situations with kindness rather than force. This should not be interpreted as weakness or ignorance. Human behavioral patterns prioritize emotional connection even in high-threat scenarios. Predator species across 3 star systems would now receive mandatory education on human interaction patterns. Emma's technique was being studied, analyzed, broken down into procedural frameworks. She didn't see it as a technique. Just being decent to scared kids, she'd said when asked about her methodology. That's just normal? Normal for humans. Emma disappeared around the corner toward Engineering Bay 4, her cheerful humming fading into the station's ambient noise. Behind her, in the habitat, Alpha released a long howling sound, Not aggressive, not threatening, but plaintive. She's already bonded with them, Korvax observed, watching the cubs cluster at the observation window, tracking Emma's departure. The question, Zara replied quietly, is whether we're ready for more humans like her. Because if this is normal human behavior. She didn't finish the sentence. The command deck watched the cubs settle at the window, clearly waiting for Emma's return. Their earlier aggression, their lethal coordination, their apex predator instincts, all of it had transformed in the presence of one human who'd seen orphans instead of threats. We're going to need new manuals, Korvax said finally. All of them. Every protocol, every procedure, every threat assessment framework we've developed over 3,000 years of galactic civilization. If humans can rewrite Krexar behavioral patterns in under an hour, we need to reassess everything. Not just Krexar, Admiral Vex Thule added. Every species, every interaction, every assumption about how intelligent beings respond to danger and conflict. His hologram flickered. We thought we understood the galaxy. We thought we understood survival, adaptation, evolution. Then humans arrived and casually demonstrated that compassion might be as powerful as any weapon we've ever developed. The emergency channels, which had been screaming with crisis protocols just hours ago, now carried academic discussions about human emotional intelligence as a survival strategy. Emma's cheerful voice crackled over the comm system. Oh, Commander, the cubs are going to need proper names. Can't keep calling them specimens or subject designations. That's just sad. Korvax activated his comm. What did you have in mind, Ms. Johnson? Well, the big guy's definitely Alpha. He's got that protective energy. And the little one is Sweet Pea, obviously. Total cuddlebug. The one who tried to steal extra food is Troublemaker, and... She laughed. How do you feel about Princess, Shadow, and Brave? She'd already named all 6 of them. Of course she had. Those names are acceptable, Ms. Johnson. Great. I'll make little name tags for their habitat areas. Oh, and they're going to need toys. Do you have anything like, I don't know, indestructible balls? Chew toys rated for industrial equipment? The transmission ended. The command deck sat in silence. Finally, Jotaro spoke. She's already named them. She's planning their enrichment activities. She's treating military classified apex predators like pets. Like family, Korvax corrected. That's what humans do. They find something vulnerable, and they claim it as family. Zara's hologram dimmed slightly. I accessed the human literature databases. There are thousands of examples, millions, actually, of humans adopting beings they should fear. Predators, dangerous animals, even artificial intelligences. They call it domestication. But it's more than that. It's integration through compassion, Dr. Lirana finished. They don't conquer. They don't dominate. They offer kindness and assume connection is possible. Even when, especially when, it shouldn't be. In the habitat, Alpha howled again. The other cubs joined in, a chorus that would have been terrifying hours ago, but now just sounded like children calling for their parent. From Engineering Bay 4, Emma's voice floated back through the ventilation systems. I hear you, babies. Mama's just working. I'll be back at shift change. Admiral Vex Thule's hologram remained motionless for a long moment. Then, Commander Korvax, I'm authorizing a comprehensive review of every human integration protocol, starting with the assumption that we've been preparing for the wrong scenarios entirely. Yes, sir? And get Ms. Johnson whatever she needs for those cubs. If she wants toys, enrichment activities, and name tags. He paused. Then apex predators are getting toys, enrichment activities, and name tags. Yes, sir. The Admiral's hologram flickered out. Korvax looked at Jotaro, at Dr. Lirana, at Zara's fading hologram, at the observation screens showing 6 apex predators waiting like puppies for their human to return. We're going to need bigger manuals, he said quietly. Much bigger manuals. In the habitat, the cubs, Alpha, Sweet Pea, Troublemaker, Princess, Shadow, and Brave, settled down to wait, their earlier violence completely forgotten in favor of anticipating Emma's return. And in Engineering Bay 4, completely unaware she just revolutionized galactic civilization's understanding of human nature, Emma Johnson hummed cheerfully while recalibrating humidity sensors and planning what snacks to bring the cubs after her shift. Just another Tuesday. For humans.